Hello, warriors. My name is Charles Eisenstein, and I'm here to share with you some of my dreams and my strategies to achieve those dreams. The name that I give to my dream is the more beautiful world my heart tells me is possible. I say my heart tells me it's possible because all the time my mind tells me that it's not possible. My mind has all these little voices that say, Charles, things are always going to be the way that they have been, slightly getting worse over time, and there's really not much you can do about it, and not much is going to change. But my heart knows otherwise. My heart knows that a more beautiful world is possible, and that what has been offered to me as normal isn't good enough. That life is supposed to be more joyous, more meaningful, more full, more authentic, and the world is supposed to be more beautiful. So when I describe the more beautiful world my heart tells me is possible, sometimes I'm a little hesitant just because it's too beautiful. One of the things I write about is the power of money and how it infiltrates not just our lives but even our minds. So that anytime we think of something really beautiful that we want to do, something really meaningful, there's that little voice that says, well, how are you going to make money off that? And even when you do find some way to get paid to do things that you love, then there are all these compromises that come up. There's like the way that you really want to do it, but that's not practical because of the market or the time card or the boss or something like that. And then there's the kind of the corner cutting way, the compromise. And a lot of what my work is about is about ending this divide, ending this contradiction. And changing the nature of money so that it's no longer the enemy of our generosity and of our desire to serve other beings, but it becomes the ally of it. And so that's kind of the institutional dimension that I talk about, but I also talk about the personal dimension because we have these habits of scarcity. We have these habits that are deeply ingrained that oppose our passion to making a living. We have habits of scarcity that basically say, the world is not here to support you. And I'm afraid that if I really describe it how I see it, if I really describe what I really think is possible, then nobody's going to believe me, or even worse, that I'm not going to believe myself. But I'll say right now as much as I dare. And a lot of the pieces probably you have thought of yourself or you've heard other people talk about. Certainly it's a world where the damage that humanity's done to the earth is healing. That we can look at the news and hear how forests are being replanted and deserts are becoming green again and dead rivers are coming back to life, and we can read this news and we know that it's not just some kind of greenwashing, but that things have really turned a corner and things are really getting better for real, and that peace is breaking out in areas that have known war for decades, and that the prisons are emptying, and that when we look around us, we see that the divide between work and life is healing, that people feel free to do what they love to do without the pressure of money linked to survival. That you could say that everyone's living in their gifts and living from their gifts and devoting their abilities toward things that actually are meaningful to them. So on a personal level, my vision of this more beautiful world, my dream, is a world in which we don't hesitate to do the things that move us, the things that we really want to do. So to answer the question, how does this impact my work and my strategies? I do my best to live it myself. Partly, well, one of the reasons I was able to do that is because I tried to live in the old way, to kind of monetize my gifts, but it didn't work very well. I tried to, become a hotshot author, and self-promote and all that stuff. And I wasn't very good at it, and my heart wasn't really in it. So at some point, and it wasn't just actually one point, but it was a series of moments, I really let go of that and more decided, I'm just going to do what I really want to do. And will I be okay? I don't know. But I'm just going to trust that I am. And even if I'm not, that's okay too. And there were times where it seemed like I was not. I mean, there are definitely times where it seemed that, I just kind of threw it all away for nothing and that the universe wasn't supporting me. But over time, I learned that it is okay. That even in those times when I'm not okay, it's still okay. And that really any other life isn't worth living. But, except for a life in which my gifts which I'm devoting my gifts towards something I really believe in. I think that this is universally true. And if we're talking about warriors without weapons, really, what is it to be a warrior? I have trouble fitting that into my worldview, really, because it seems to me that a warrior is somebody who fights against something. But in a broader sense, a warrior is really somebody who devotes himself or herself completely to the thing that he loves. And it could be to protect what he loves, but maybe you could even expand it to include to nourish or to create what he loves. And that's what it really is for me. So the term warrior, I guess the true part of it is the part of complete devotion to something. It's a path of devotion. And I think that everybody has this desire to devote their gifts toward something that they really believe in. And you could even say that that's why we're here. Why else have we received these gifts? On some level, we are born into the knowledge of our giftedness. Just even being alive is a gift. It's not something that anybody earned. You didn't earn being breastfed or, being fed when you were a kid or having water on this planet or air. Like all of the things that we need to live were given to us. Because of that, we feel gratitude. On some level, we feel gratitude, even if that gratitude is deeply hidden. Gratitude is the knowledge of having received and the desire to give in turn. We're born with that desire, and if that desire is not being expressed, then we're going to feel like we're not really living our lives. We're going to feel like we're living the life we're paid to live, we're living somebody else's life. The world I want to create is a world where everybody is free to express that in their lives, in their actions, to express that desire. So one of the questions is about strategies to make my dream come true. I think that in the old world, before things really began to fall apart, we kind of knew how to create something in the world. We understood these rules of cause and effect, where if you want to, build a skyscraper, you first have to get your financing, you have to do this, you have to do that, and there was kind of a linear progression of how to do it. We knew how to create the things of the world that's now crumbling. But today it's different. Today we're in a time of uncertainty, and there are no rule books, there are no guidebooks that can give us step-by-step instructions on how to create the world that we're dreaming about. So we're kind of on our own. For me, it's been a process of trial and error as I kind of grope my way around and figure out what's the new logic of this new world. What are the new rules of cause and effect? So maybe after all these mistakes, I've learned a few things, and I keep coming back to the paradigm of the gift. One of the most effective strategies is to see other people exactly as I just described, as bearers of gifts and as as being here in the world in order to give their gifts and of really wanting to do that. The other strategy would be to see them as these kind of self-interested, rational actors, like these, Darwinian genes, selfish genes that seek to maximize self-interest, or economics tells us the same thing, and when you see people like that as fundamentally selfish, fundamentally evil, basically, then your strategies are going to be very different, because you're going to say, well, this person's out for themselves. So in order to make them change, I'm going to have to appeal to their self-interest. I'm going to have to either threaten them in some way. It could be very subtle with shame or guilt, or I'm going to have to reward them. When it comes to political strategy, I think this is disastrous, because it's basically saying, well, Mr. Corporate Executive or Mr. Politician, I know that you don't really want to do the right thing. I know that you're just out for number one, yourself. That's the underlying message behind so this policy will really actually make more money for your company or your friends or something like that. And so we're speaking to a part of them that isn't really the true part, and we're actually degrading them. So the strategy that I like to use is to speak to a truer part of every human being, the part that is really here to serve other beings, is really here to give of their gifts. And I find that when I see people with those eyes, then words come to me that inspire them. And they want to step into that vision of themselves too, even if I'm not explicitly saying it. When I'm coming from that place, then I'm inviting people to inhabit that place also. I'm inviting them into the role of a giver, of a server of humanity, of a server of the planet. And I think that we need to help each other to occupy that role, because we have so many institutions that pull us back, including the money institution, that pull us back and make us occupy that small, tight, miserable role of my financial security, my self-interest. And we have voices in our head that pull us back to that too. So we need to help each other stay in the role of the giver, of the warrior for love, the warrior for love. That's my strategy. I guess I have some other strategies. And one of them that I found really useful is to give people an experience of a different kind of world than what we're used to. One way to give people that experience, and there's a lot of ways. Humor can even be a way. One time I went to even a liquor store, and I think I just make a little joke, like, hey, did you know today is National Whiskey Day? The president just announced it, or just something like that, because that doesn't quite fit into the oppressive humdrum existence that is built into that job, really, or to almost any job in our culture. Or it can be through an act of forgiveness or an act of generosity. Sometimes these can be very powerful because they don't fit into that worldview of everyone's out for themselves. We're all separate. It creates a different kind of experience. So I've been asked how my strategies are working. Well, not sure how to answer that. My experience has been that my work is reverberating more and more. What I put out into the world is coming back to me more and more, whereas I had many years where it felt very lonely. I think that that's a very common phase for people to go through when you're transitioning between worlds, as many of us are. There's this kind of lonely passage where, and many people go through this, maybe you've experienced this, where you feel like like am I the crazy one here? Am I the only one who is perceiving these things? Am I the only one who's believing these things? Even though, like, yeah, you know that there are other people out there who are thinking as you do, your daily experience doesn't really confirm that. And that's partly because of the institutions around us, but it's partly also because of these habits of mind. It's really ourselves that are saying, are you crazy? This isn't going to work. And there's a phase then where it really does feel like that kind of mentality gets projected onto the world and reflected back on us. For me, that was a really useful time when I was getting no affirmation from the world. And I felt like very much a lonely warrior. It was a useful time because through that experience, I learned just how much I'm actually dedicated to what I believe in. If it had come really easy right at the beginning, I never would have known how much I really care and what I would be willing to do or what I'd be willing to risk to make it come a reality. So having been through that experience, I'm strong now, and I'm not easily turned away from my path. So if you're in that phase of loneliness, maybe not all the time, but even sometimes, my message is that don't worry. This is making you stronger and forging you into a warrior. Right now, for me, even though, right now I'm pretty well known. My work is really well known. But even so, I still have those moments where it feels hopeless. It feels like nothing I do could possibly be enough, and the world is hurtling towards this cliff, and it's unstoppable. That state of despair I today recognize is based on an old understanding of who we are and an old understanding of the nature of reality that says there's this world out there separate from you and nothing you do really matters. That is propaganda. That's an ideology, and that ideology is becoming obsolete, even scientifically obsolete. It doesn't mesh with quantum mechanics. It's time for us to learn different habits of thought and to understand mentally what we already know in our hearts, which is that everything we do is significant. Every act that we put out into the world has an effect on the cosmos. It ripples out into infinity. This is something we know. Those little invisible acts that of kindness, a kind word to somebody, or rescuing a lost puppy or something like that, the rational mind has no explanation for what good could that possibly do. Or maybe sitting in hospice with a dying person, how is that going to affect the world? But we know better. We know that that is a significant act. In this time of transition, that's the voice to listen to. That's the feeling to listen to. That knowledge of what feels right, what gives us strength. Because, like I said, there are no instruction manuals for creating a new world. All the instruction manuals were created in the old world. What we do have is our inner knowing, and we have the experience of each other as we kind of wander and figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I guess my message to the people in this program, I've been told that there are 60 warriors without weapons in this program. My message is to really trust that. To trust that feeling that what you do is significant whether or not you could understand how, even when it seems impossible. That knowledge will help you do the crazy things that are necessary to create a more beautiful world. If enough people do those crazy things, then they're not crazy anymore. But you're the pioneers. You're the first people doing them. So they do seem crazy. To devote your life to anything beyond yourself, that's crazy, isn't it? What good is it going to do you? So listen to that knowledge inside of you that understands that this is the best thing you could possibly do for yourself and for the planet. I guess that's it.